Sometimes I see butterflies in my garden, and when I do, I always search for one thing: eggs or a cocoon. And then I take what I find and assist it in hatching to its adult form. And one day, I got lucky. I was out in the garden and found something really special: mystery eggs underneath a plant leaf. And you won't believe it, but that same day, I also found this: a butterfly chrysalis. Well, I took them, and first I put those eggs under my time lapse, and they ended up hatching a few days later into tiny ladybug larvae. And the chrysalis? Something incredible happened in the matter of days. I guess I found the eggs and this beautiful yellow, green, white chrysalis at the perfect time, because when I brought it inside, a journey that I never expected begun. Immediately, I got my time-lapse camera rolling on that chrysalis, preparing to capture the metamorphosis in real time. This thing was so beautiful, and I was so excited to see what this butterfly would end up looking like. I just wasn't sure exactly how long I would have to wait. But to my surprise, just 2 days later, I sat there and witnessed a beautiful butterfly hatching from the chrysalis. I was so excited, I let her sit there for about 3 hours. Because when butterflies hatch, their wings are crumbled and tightly packed against their bodies, so they need a few hours for their wings to fully dry and expand properly to fly. You can imagine that it was probably the longest 3 hours ever, but once the time passed and I practiced my patience, I noticed that the butterfly peed on the plant in the enclosure. But it wasn't really pee. What it is actually a liquid that all butterflies excrete from the tips of their wings, signaling that they are ready for flight. The process has a name, and it's called guttation, and it's an incredible phenomenon. And since I got the signal that she was ready to fly, I first, of course, had to make sure that we were friends, so she would live in my garden, or at the very least come to visit me. So I extended my finger, hoping she would climb on it, and she soon delicately crawled onto my finger and latched onto my nail. She made her first few flight attempts, and naturally I was very excited. I sat there as I watched her begin to fine-tune her flight capabilities and maximize her aerodynamic efficiency to live out in nature. And slowly but surely, her wings began to flap more, and it seemed like she was getting ready to fly away. I wanted to keep her forever, but I hoped she would be my garden butterfly and maybe remember me. I knew that I couldn't stop her from living freely in nature and getting all the pollen in the world from the most beautiful flowers. Hopefully in my garden, okay? But what I knew was coming all along, the moment I kind of dreaded but also sort of longed for. Finally, just like that, she decided to fly. She took a moment as if she was saying thank you and goodbye and flew away into my cabbage plant, gracefully in the warm summer air. And listen, I give full consent to this butterfly living in my cabbage plant, even if it eats it. Actually, I really hope she doesn't leave. But now, maybe you're thinking she could have hatched by herself in the garden, and rightfully so. It's definitely a strong possibility. But what a lot of people don't realize is that oftentimes eggs or butterfly chrysalises don't survive and get to reach the stage of hatching, since there are a lot of dangers posed in their environment and a lot of different creatures that can eat them and search for the chrysalis or eggs as food. So that's why if I do find them, I consider myself lucky to be able to take them in and provide an even safer environment for them to reach the hatching stage and hopefully live out the rest of their lives in my garden. I couldn't believe all of this happened so fast, and I also had those tiny oval-shaped yellow eggs that I found on the plant leaf too. And at this point, you're probably wondering if those ever even turned into ladybugs, and how I even knew it was ladybug larvae. Well, I'm happy to report that they did, and I had an unbelievable experience hatching those into ladybugs too. I have a longer video about the ladybugs, but the short version here is that They hatched from the eggs, became tiny little larvae that would crawl around and eat the leaves, and then they soon grew into bigger bugs with cool spikes on their backs and a red, orange, black coloring. And then, just like that, I noticed one day the bugs started to stick themselves to the sides of the enclosure and they started to flap up and down for a couple of days, until the bug sort of became the shape of what a ladybug would be, and a very light pink yellow color. And then they soon morphed from that light pink ladybug shape into a real ladybug. But it actually did take some time for the spots to morph onto the ladybug. And then I soon realized that this was not in fact a ladybug after all, but a lady beetle. And the difference is in the number of spots they have on their bodies. And soon, when the ladybug was ready, she too flew away into the beautiful warm summer air. And listen, after this happened, I got a huge obsession with hatching tiny creatures into their fullest form. And since then, I've hatched creatures like hornworms into hawk moths, Mexican jumping beans into tiny adult moths, mealworms into beetles, a morning cloak caterpillar to an adult butterfly, silkworms that I haven't successfully hatched into silk moths yet, but we got them to the cocoon stage. And there's more, okay? So listen, I don't plan to stop anytime soon. These tiny creatures fill me up with life. Because why would you stop when you can witness such a mesmerizing and beautiful metamorphosis of stunning tiny creatures into their fullest form?